Think about the last time you sat down on your sofa after a really long day, you're completely drained, and you tell yourself, I'm just going to take a 10-minute break.
Oh, yeah. The infamous 10-minute break.
Right. So you pull out your phone, you open up a video app, and you watch something funny. You get that little dopamine hit.
And it feels like recovery in the moment.
Exactly. It feels like you're resting, but then the video ends, the next one autoplays, and that little voice in your head goes, okay, just one more.
It's never just one more.
Never. An hour and 15 minutes later, you finally snap out of the trance. And the thing is, you don't feel rested at all. You feel hollow, slightly guilty, and honest.
You were more exhausted than when you sat down in the first place.
Yes. Welcome back to the Deep Dive Learner. Today, we're dismantling exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how to permanently rewire the way you interact with the 24 hours in your day.
Yeah. That specific scenario you just described, that's actually the entry point for our source material today.
Right, which is this really fascinating transcript from a popular language learning YouTube channel.
Yeah, the channel is called Speak English with Class, and the video is titled Don't Waste Your Life.
Which is a heavy title for a language channel.
It really is. I mean, on the surface, it presents itself as like a methodology for acquiring a new language. But when you look at the underlying mechanics the creator is teaching...
It's basically a masterclass.
Completely. It's a rigorous masterclass in human psychology, temporal economics, and habit architecture.
So the mission for our deep dive today is to extract those universal nuggets, right? We want to take this framework and apply it to how you, the listener, consume knowledge and build skills.
Exactly. So you can make massive progress without hitting that wall of information overload.
Okay, let's unpack this because, we all complain about not having enough time, but this source kind of flips that entire concept on its head.
It really does. It argues that we actually have plenty of time. We're just fundamentally misunderstanding how to measure it.
And to do that, the source says we have to completely abandon our standard definition of what it means to waste time, right?
Yeah. We have this ingrained cultural binary where we categorize activities like it's either productive or it's leisure.
Right, like filling out a spreadsheet is productive, but watching a movie is leisure.
Exactly. But the source just throws that binary out entirely.
It replaces it with this really sharp, almost clinical assessment based on utility and the aftermath.
Yeah, the criteria is no longer about whether an activity is traditionally fun or boring. The criteria is...
Does it help you learn? Does it help you grow? Or does it provide genuine rest?
Right. And if it fails those three tests, it is officially a waste of time.
And the ultimate metric they use to measure this, which I found fascinating, is the metric of regret.
The metric of regret. It's such a powerful concept.
It is. It's that hyper-specific sinking feeling in your gut when you finally lock your phone screen, you look around the room, and you just ask yourself, why did I just do that?
Because you realize you haven't actually relaxed at all.
Right. Mindless scrolling isn't rest. It's like fake rest.
It's passive consumption disguised as recovery. And the source uses these two really powerful visual analogies to drive this home.
Oh, the water and the sand.
Yes. So the first one is water. Imagine your daily allocation of time as a finite bottle of fresh drinking water.
Okay.
If you take that bottle and you pour it directly onto the dirt floor...
You can't drink it later when you're thirsty.
Exactly. The resource is simply gone, and it provided you with zero nourishment.
Wow. And the second analogy is the sand, right? Letting time slip away into the void of a social media feed feels exactly like holding a handful of dry sand with your fingers just, slightly open.
Yeah, you can physically feel the grain slipping away.
You know you're losing something valuable, but you aren't actually grasping anything. You're just watching it disappear.
And the mechanism at play here is a lack of intentionality. When we pour the water on the floor or we let the sand slip, we're usually operating on autopilot.
We're just avoiding the cognitive effort required to make a choice.
Exactly. But that feeling of pouring water on the floor, that's exactly why we try to overcorrect so aggressively.
Oh man, I do this all the time. When people realize they've been hemorrhaging their time, the immediate panicked reaction is to make these massive, sweeping life changes.
Right. You tell yourself, starting tomorrow, I'm going to study this new subject for 2 hours every single day, and I am going to completely transform my life.
But the source actively warns against that instinct, doesn't it?
Strongly warns against it.
Yeah.
Making large, vague, ambitious plans is actually one of the most dangerous things you can do when you're trying to rebuild your focus.
Which sounds completely counterintuitive.
It does. But they use the analogy of a car's GPS to explain why.
Right, setting a goal like I will study more or I will improve.
Yeah, doing that is the equivalent of getting into your car, turning on the navigation system, but refusing to type in a specific destination address.
So you just end up driving in circles.
Driving in circles, burning through your fuel, and eventually pulling over in frustration because you haven't actually gone anywhere.
A vague plan gives you the illusion of ambition without the friction of a roadmap.
That's a great way to put it. And because it's so large, it becomes a psychological weight.
Right. Like, if my goal is to study a complex topic for an hour, the moment I feel a slight dip in energy after work, that full hour feels like an impossible mountain to climb.
So you skip a day.
Yeah, skip a day. Then the guilt compounds. And by day 3, I've abandoned the project entirely.
We've all been there. So the antidote the source provides for this cycle is something they call tiny plans.
Tiny plans. Explain how those work.
Well, you take that grand ambition and you shrink the daily promise down to something absurdly, almost comically small.
So instead of a 1-hour block,
You commit to 10 minutes. Instead of promising to master a whole chapter, you promise to learn 3 new words or just read a single page.
you give the mental GPS an exact, hyper-specific address.
Exactly.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, but I actually have to push back a little on this.
Go for it.
Let's look at the reality of adult learning or professional development. If I sit down to learn a new coding language or I want to study financial modeling, 10 minutes doesn't even get my software booted up in my brain into the right context.
That's a fair point.
Right. If I only commit to 3 words or 1 page, aren't I just kidding myself about making actual progress? I mean, 10 minutes feels way too small to cross the threshold into deep work.
I see what you're saying, but you're looking at the goal purely through the lens of output. The source is looking at it through the lens of neurological habit formation.
Okay, walk me through that.
You're absolutely right that 10 minutes might not yield a massive breakthrough in a coding project on day 1. But what the tiny plan does is prioritize consistency over intensity.
Ah, okay.
It's a deliberate mechanism to bypass the amygdala's stress response. See, when you set a goal of 1 hour, your brain perceives that heavy cognitive load as a threat, and it generates friction.
So it makes you feel too tired to start.
Exactly. It triggers the procrastination loop.
Wow. Okay, so when you lower the barrier to entry to just 10 minutes,
You remove the threat. The friction of beginning just disappears. And the psychological win happens the moment you start.
because you're no longer scared of the task.
Right. And
Yeah.
often, once you overcome that initial hurdle of sitting down, the momentum carries you. You might end up working for 30 or 40 minutes.
But even if you strictly stop at the 10-minute mark,
Even if you stop at 10 minutes, you've achieved the most critical objective. You kept a promise to yourself. You're building self-trust.
so you walk away feeling proud instead of defeated.
Exactly, which makes you far more likely to sit down again the next day.
The momentum is more important than the milestone. I love that. If I can trust myself to do the 10 minutes, the deep work eventually follows because the habit is secure.
Exactly.
But, that brings up the physical reality of our modern schedules. Even if we embrace the tiny plan, finding dedicated quiet time is incredibly difficult for people.
Oh, absolutely. People are working 50 hours a week, commuting, managing kids.
Yeah. The idea of carving out time, even 10 minutes, can feel like pulling teeth. Where do these 10 minutes actually come from?
This is where the source introduces this brilliant framework of temporal economics. They recognize that looking for clean, uninterrupted blocks of time is a trap.
So what's the alternative?
They introduce the concept of pocket time.
Pocket time. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, so these are the hidden 3, 5, or 7-minute fragments of time that are scattered arbitrarily throughout our day.
Like the time you spend standing in line waiting for your coffee.
Exactly. Or the 5 minutes sitting in the back of a taxi.
Or just waiting for a pot of water to boil, or waiting for a Zoom meeting to start.
Right. The source frames this by comparing time to currency. In our daily lives, we hyper-focus on the big coins.
The big blocks of time.
Yeah, we value the crisp, shiny 1-hour or 2-hour blocks of uninterrupted focus. And because we worship those big coins, we treat the small coins, those 3-minute gaps, as if you're completely worthless.
We just throw them in the trash by pulling out our phones and consuming algorithmic noise.
We really do. We treat 5 minutes as too small to be useful, so we squander it. But the mathematics of pocket time are undeniable.
The source actually shares an incredibly compelling story to illustrate this, don't they?
Yeah.
About the busy working mother.
Yes, this is a great story. So this woman was a working mother with 2 kids, a full-time job, and literally zero personal time.
Right. She told a friend that she fundamentally did not have a single 1 hour block in her day to study a new language.
Which is a very real, very valid excuse. But then she realized she was wealthy in small coins.
She had dozens of fragmented minutes.
Exactly. So she abandoned the idea of the 1 hour block entirely. She exclusively harvested her pocket time.
It's like finding loose change in the couch cushions of your schedule.
Exactly like that. She used 5 minutes while walking from her office to the bus stop. She used 10 minutes while eating her lunch. She used 7 minutes right before turning off the lights to sleep.
She just stopped throwing her loose change in the trash. And like within a few months, strictly by stacking those tiny slivers of time, her language skills progressed drastically.
It completely dismantles the excuse of, I don't have time.
Yet,
You do have time, it's just decentralized.
decentralized time. That is a radical shift in how you view your day.
Yeah.
But wait, I'm thinking about this, and it introduces a new risk.
What's that?
Well, if we start optimizing every single 3-minute gap in our day, like if I'm pulling out flashcards while waiting for the elevator and running mental coding drills while washing the dishes,
I see where you're going.
doesn't that start to feel like a punishment? My brain is going to fry. It sounds incredibly demanding to be on all the time.
Optimization can easily turn into burnout. Yeah.
Right. So how do we avoid that?
The source includes a critical, non-negotiable rule for utilizing pocket time. You must make it fun.
Okay, make it fun.
Yeah. Because the human brain is highly sensitive to sustained cognitive strain. If you fill every free moment with heavy, grueling study, your brain will rebel against the routine.
It'll start perceiving the learning process as this huge energy drain, and you'll inevitably quit.
Exactly. The inner child essentially throws a tantrum.
That's like trying to force a kid to play a game while standing over them with a stopwatch, shouting at them not to make mistakes. The joy just evaporates.
And the activity becomes just another chore on the adult to-do list. To prevent that, the source insists on gamifying the process and lowering the cognitive load.
You have to connect the learning to things you already naturally gravitate toward.
Right. If your pocket time involves reading a dry textbook, you will fail. But if you take those 5 minutes in the shower to listen to a song in the target language and try to mimic the singer.
You're learning through play.
Exactly.
Or like turning on the subtitles for a short television show you were already planning to watch anyway.
Yes. It's about engineering small victories that don't feel like labor. You're tricking your brain into growing without the sensation of heavy lifting.
Okay, so we've mastered the tiny plans, we're successfully harvesting all our pocket time, and we're making the process enjoyable. But all of that effort is completely fragile if you don't secure your environment, right?
Absolutely. This is where the overarching strategy shifts from acquisition to defense.
It's defense.
Yeah. You now know how to find your small coins, but you have to protect them from external threats. And the source uses a very specific term for these threats: time thieves.
Time thieves. And a time thief is characterized by its parasitic nature.
Parasitic is the perfect word. It's an activity or an application that demands your attention and drains your cognitive energy, but gives you absolutely nothing of value in return.
It's an attention hijacker.
And the ultimate time thief for the modern learner is, unsurprisingly, the smartphone.
Yeah, the social media feed.
The transcript paints a scenario that is uncomfortably accurate for most people.
Oh, I know the one. You're sitting in bed at the end of the day, and you make a conscious decision to just, like, check one single message.
Just one message. But the architecture of the phone is literally designed to bypass your intentions.
Right. You open the message, but a notification catches your eye. You click it, you see a short, funny clip, you scroll down, and suddenly you are deeply invested in reading a heated argument between two total strangers in the comments section.
And then you click a link to a stressful news story.
And in the span of 20 minutes, your brain has been flooded with cortisol and random data points, but you haven't gained a single piece of useful knowledge.
You've been robbed.
Completely.
And the cognitive friction required to ignore a time thief when it is sitting right next to you is immense.
Oh, yeah. Like if your phone is on your desk while you try to execute a 10-minute tiny plan, your brain is actively spending willpower to not look at the phone.
Which is an exhausting process. The defense against this is the same as defending against a physical thief. You cannot rely on willpower alone.
You have to lock the door.
You have to establish environmental control.
That means creating physical boundaries. You put the phone in an entirely different room before you sit down for your 10 minutes.
You disable all push notifications at the system level.
You create rigid rules like dictating that you will not open a single social media app until your specific tiny daily goal is fully completed.
By removing the visual cue of the time thief, you preserve your willpower for the actual learning process.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But this brings us to what might be the most counterintuitive and probably the most crucial distinction in the entire source material.
The paradox of rest.
Yes. This is where the framework really shows its empathy. Because, when you hear phrases like "don't waste your life" and "defend against time thieves," the immediate assumption is that the source is advocating for a relentless grind.
Yeah, the toxic idea that you must be optimizing and working every waking second of the day.
Right, the hustle culture mentality.
But the source explicitly rejects that mentality because it's biologically impossible to sustain. They make a really profound distinction. Rest is not wasting time.
Genuine rest is a required component of the system.
To explain the mechanism behind this, they use an analogy that is just perfectly calibrated for the modern listener. They compare the human mind and body to a smartphone battery.
It's hilarious and so true.
Think about how you operate your technology. If you run heavy applications on your phone all day long, keeping the screen at maximum brightness, and you stubbornly refuse to plug it into the wall.
The device eventually shuts down. It ceases to function.
Right. We accept this physical reality about our hardware without question, yet we constantly try to defy it with our own neurology.
The irony is almost painful. We treat our actual phones better than we treat ourselves.
We really do.
Like, if our phone battery drops to 10%, we go into a state of minor panic. We scramble around the house looking for a charger.
But we will routinely force our own physical batteries down to zero, deprive ourselves of sleep, and still demand that our brains execute complex analytical tasks.
And when you demand high-level performance from a depleted battery, the output is not just slow, it's fundamentally compromised.
The source shares a perfect narrative to illustrate this trap. They describe a scenario where someone is working on a crucial project late at night.
Right?
They're entirely exhausted, but they try to force their way through it, grinding for 2 agonizing hours.
They're running on 0% battery. And the result of those 2 hours of forced labor is essentially garbage.
The work is full of errors. It lacks any creative insight.
But the story continues the next morning, right? After finally giving up and getting a full night of sleep.
After physically plugging the battery into the wall.
Yeah, that same person sits down and completes the exact same project flawlessly in just 30 minutes.
The contrast is the lesson there. 2 hours of depleted grinding produced a negative return. 30 minutes of rested focus produced excellence.
So things like quality sleep, quiet reflection, and simple unplugged rest are not luxuries or signs of laziness.
They are the charger. Actively choosing to close your laptop, walk away from the desk, and go to sleep is often the most strategic time management decision you can make.
It's the prerequisite for focus tomorrow. Exactly.
Okay, so if we synthesize all of these mechanisms, the source material essentially offers a 4-step roadmap for anyone listening who wants to reclaim their focus today.
Yeah, a 4-pillar architecture. It starts with setting that microscopic goal.
The tiny plan that bypasses your brain's stress response.
Exactly. Step 2 is taking that highly specific 10-minute goal and slotting it directly into your pocket time.
You stop looking for the mythic 1-hour block and start harvesting the 5-minute gaps you currently throw away in the checkout line.
Step 3, you ensure that the interaction with the material is inherently fun or gamified.
Drastically lowering the cognitive load so it feels like play rather than punishment.
And finally, step 4, you secure the perimeter. You lock out the time thieves through environmental design, and you become your own coach.
Your own advocate. When you finish those 10 minutes, you actively provide positive reinforcement. You tell yourself, good job, cementing the habit loop. It really requires a total shift in your internal vocabulary. The source highlights this beautifully. We're moving away from a state of being vague and easily distracted by attention hijackers.
Right. And we're moving toward a state of being highly intentional, where we curate our environment and respect our need for rest.
You're no longer just spending or wasting your time. You are investing it.
That vocabulary shift from spending to investing is the core takeaway. Every time you utilize a piece of pocket time, you're making a micro-investment in your future capability.
Precisely.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to carry into the rest of your day. We've established that time is like a finite bottle of water, and those hidden minutes are like small coins scattered across your schedule.
So if you stop throwing those coins away today, consider the compounding mathematics of habit.
What is the interest rate on a 5-minute investment made every single day for a year? If you make the deliberate choice to lock the door on just one time thief this afternoon, what kind of massive, unexpected treasure might you end up building in your own life?
The water is in the bottle. How you pour it is entirely up to you.
Catch you next